Check out FlipsideGaming.com for all your gaming needs. Use the promo code HEROES to save 10% on all orders over $10. From now through May 6th, if you use that promo code, you will automatically be entered into a drawing to win a War of the Spark booster box. See the description below for details. Hey there, this is John from Heroes and Legends, and we have another day of War of the Spark preview cards to recap and analyze for you. If you're curious as to the source of any of these cards, as always, just check the description below. All the information is down there. Without any further ado, let's get going. Finale of Revelation. This is part of that finale cycle. We saw the red one last week. Now, this one and the other three were leaked a few days ago, so this might look familiar to you, but we haven't talked about it on the channel yet. Basically, let me get this out of the way first. All of these are good in Commander, because if you can get X to 10, they do something awesome. In this case, you get to shuffle your graveyard back into your library and draw X cards, and you get to untap 5 lands, so you can still play something even if you tap out to use the card. Also, for the rest of the game, you have no maximum hand size. Whenever you use this one, it does exile itself, though, to prevent some shenanigans, so make note of that. What about Standard, though? Could it see play there? Maybe a little fringe play. I would try this out maybe in the sideboard of a control deck and a mirror matchup. Just because in those long, drawn-out control games, you might actually be able to get the X up to 10. It's not out of the question. Other than that, though, there's so many good instant speed draw spells out there that I'm hard-pressed to go and use a sorcery, even though this is pretty economical compared to, say, something like Expansion Explosion. That's going to cost you a little more to do the explosion side, but it also deals the damage, and it's an instant. So normally, I think I would run that over something like this in most circumstances, as well as a lot of the other instant speed spells out there that let me see cards. Yes, this could see just a little standard play maybe, though. I do think it's worth trying out if nothing else. Limited? Yeah, this thing's a bomb. Whenever you have a big spell like this in Limited, and getting up to 12 mana isn't going to be necessarily easy all the time. It just depends on the speed of the format and the speed of the matchups. But even if you don't, just drawing cards with this when you're about halfway through the game running out of gas, then this could really replenish your hand, give you the heat you need to push the game forward, and hopefully get a victory. So yes, this is going to be a fantastic mythic if you're lucky enough to open one of these. It is a single color spell, and even though it is 2 blue, at least it doesn't commit you to multiple colors if you do pick this up in pack 1 of a draft. Storm the Citadel. This is a very good limited card. You know, it's not an instant, it's not a combat trick, but still, if you're in a board stall, you have a lot of creatures, you're facing down a lot of creatures on the other side, this will come in and give all your stuff +2/+2. It could be enough for you to just push across a victory. Now, it doesn't give trample or anything like that. Hopefully you have some evasion on your creatures already, at least to some degree. Or else you're in a situation where your opponent has to make unfavorable blocks because you're towards the end of the game and their life total is low enough. Now, the other portion of this ability here, any of those creatures that do connect with either a player or planeswalker, you get to destroy an enchantment or artifact. That may or may not be relevant, but I don't care about that. I will still play this most of the time as long as my deck's pretty creature heavy, and in sealed or draft, usually it is. When it comes to Standard, this is a little too slow, a little too expensive, and a little too dependent on board state. Bioessence Hydra. Let's talk limited first. 4/4, trample for 5. Even if I don't play any of my planeswalkers for some reason, maybe they're just all horrible, then yeah, this is still a good card for me in limited. I'll play it, I'll be happy with it. Maybe I can grow it some other way, perhaps too. It's in the Simic colors after all. It will be great there for you. It is a rare, so I mean, it should be. In Standard, this could see play maybe in a Super Friends deck if one of those can get there. Simply, you're not going to play this in Standard unless you know when you play it, it's going to be much more sizable than a 4/4. You have to feel like you're playing some pretty consistent Planeswalkers, and the Super Friends deck would be the deck that would do that. This could really shine in Commander, though. Obviously, you have the opportunity to play a lot of Planeswalkers if you choose to, and this could be a good creature there. Casualties of War. Wow, this thing is crazy. 6 casting cost. It does commit you to 2 black and 2 green, so it's not the easiest thing to cast. It is a sorcery as well, but it kind of should be. Choose 1 or more. Look at that list of things you can destroy. This is kind of a new take on the card Decimate, but it does more, cost you a little more too, though. So would I play this in Standard? I'd at least test it in like Sultai midrange or Golgari midrange. Maybe it's out of the sideboard. Because here's the thing, it depends on my matchup. If this thing's going to come out and end up destroying a land and a creature, it's probably not worth my time. But if it's destroying a Planeswalker, a land, a creature, maybe one other thing, well, that's a different story. Again, imagine if that Planeswalker deck does get there in the format. Playing this card against that type of deck, maybe I hit a Planeswalker, I hit a land, perhaps they have a creature out, maybe they even have an artifact like Chromatic Lantern. Now we're talking, right? You're getting a lot of value. So Partially, I think this depends on where the meta goes, how playable it is, but it is a very powerful card as long as there's a need for it, number one, and number two, there's decks that feel comfortable casting this. Again, I do think it will typically be out of the sideboard, though. Now, in Limited, as long as you can cast it with those colors in your deck, you're going to be happy to play this any day of the week, even if you're only destroying the creature and land when you play it. It will be worth your time. The problem being is this is a little awkward in draft if you open this up in pack 1. I could see passing this, honestly, because it is a big color commitment to 2 different colors, 2 black and 2 green and 2 here. So it's a little strange there, but if you can get it into your deck and work it in, it's going to be good. Commander or multiplayer games, casual games, this thing is going to be a monster. You're going to see a lot of this at those tables. Oath of Kaya. So Kaya is taking the Oath, and she's actually got a pretty good Oath card here. So the big drawback to this card is if you read the beginning of it, it's kind of like Lightning Helix, but it does cost 1 more, and it's not an instant. That is kind of a problem, but it's not a huge problem for me because Lightning Helix is a very good card, and I do think it could be very good in this particular format that we're in right now. Now, granted, the standard meta is going to shift, and maybe it shifts off the aggro decks a little bit. If that's the case, maybe this card gets worse. But right now, with all the aggro decks coming in, the white aggro decks, the red aggro decks, and all the combinations in between, then, yeah, you know what? Having a Lightning Helix sorcery speed for 3 does not feel bad to me right now. It's probably a sideboard card that I bring in, but you know what? This will see play. Definitely Esper decks are going to enjoy this. The second ability is only really good if you have opponents attacking your Planeswalkers, but again, who knows? Maybe a Planeswalker or Super Friends deck could get there. Perhaps. If it does, maybe this sees play there too. But for the most part, a little slower, a little more expensive Lightning Helix, I think is good enough. This will be awesome for you in Limited too. You're going to love it there. Blast Zone. This is another card that might look familiar. It was leaked a few days back, but this again is the first time we're seeing it as it is now officially being revealed. And this one is really interesting. I like this card a lot, actually. This type of ability on a land I think is very powerful. So it's very similar to Ratchet Bomb. Some might compare it to Engineered Explosives. I think maybe Ratchet Bomb's a closer comparison. It is a little slow, but it still at the end of the day can get the job done. And remember, these abilities do impact not only your opponent's things, but also your things, worth noting. Beyond that, though, this one is a little awkward if you want to get rid of, say, tokens or 0 casting cost things just simply because it enters the battlefield with a charge counter on it. However, if you can remove that charge counter, you could get around that. In fact, there was a card we saw yesterday in our video. We discussed it. It was Soul Diviner, and that could remove the charge counter for you. Now, in Standard, that might be hard to pull off on the fly, especially if you're getting beat down by a lot of tokens for some reason, like zombie tokens or something like that. But it might be worth trying out or testing just to see how consistent you can make it. Maybe you bring the Soul Diviner in from the sideboard if you're in a matchup like that, but the Blast Zone might just be in your main deck. Now, when it comes to cards like this that tap for colorless mana, you do have to be wary of your mana base, especially if you're getting greedy on colors. That goes for Standard as well as Draft or Sealed. If you really want to play the card still, though, just count it as one of your spells instead of one of your lands. It will be just fine. Where does this actually see play? I do think this sees Standard play probably in multiple decks. This might even see a little Modern play. I think this has a shot to see Legacy play in like lands decks as well. Commander, this is going to be fantastic there. Limited, you'll play it there. Just having this on the battlefield is going to slow down your opponent, if nothing else, and make them think about their future plays. That's enough to get a little bit of an advantage. If you draw it late, you could definitely get something big off the battlefield. Luckily, we're getting Proliferate cards in this set, which will help this card a lot, not only in Draft or Sealed, but also probably in Standard too. Ultimately, I think this card is really sweet. Definitely one to keep an eye on. Alright, with that being said, those are the cards for today. We're going to come back tomorrow. We're going to do it all again, so I will see you then. Until next time, though, thanks for watching. Please remember to like and subscribe, and have a great day. Hey, thanks for watching. This video is made possible through the generous support of viewers like you on Patreon. Check out the description below for links to our Patreon page, as well as our Amazon affiliate store, where a small percentage of all sales will also help support the channel. Finally, if you haven't had a chance yet to subscribe, hit that subscribe button so you don't miss any of the new videos on Heroes and Legends. Talk to you again soon, and have a great day.